Hey everybody, here we are in the Midwest in mid-August, and this is the time that you want to be thinking about planting your fall vegetable garden. I know we've got a lot of tomatoes and peppers, cucumbers, all those things still growing in the garden. So we're going to talk through that a little bit and how we can start adding in those fall vegetables so we can have produce all the way up until potentially Christmas. So one way you can start your fall vegetable garden is, again, we can start our seeds indoors in little trays or little pots and get those started in a cooler climate and then transplant out into the garden. But some of these things, you can just sow them directly into the ground to have success in the fall. So here's something like spinach, lettuce, your leafy greens. A lot of your leafy greens, we really wouldn't recommend you put those straight into the ground until the end of August, beginning of September. It's a little too hot usually in the Midwest in August, and if we plant this seed in the ground, it germinates, it starts growing, it's still super hot. A lot of times they're just gonna bolt, they're gonna get bitter flavor, and you're really not gonna have a successful harvest. So with most of your leafy greens, if you're going from seed straight into the ground, I'd rather you start late August or early September for better success. You've got some of your root crops, things like carrots are wonderful, beets, we got radishes, those kind of things, your root crops, those you could go ahead and start right now, mid-August. That'd be a great time to get those in the ground, get them growing and sized up well, and you're gonna be harvesting this all through the fall. So right now would be a great time to get your root crops in the ground. If you're gonna start them indoors, early to mid-August, you can start these indoors. And then early September, you can transplant them out into your garden once they're mature enough. So another way that we can start our fall vegetable garden is by starter plants. Now, this is a great way to get into fall vegetable gardening, especially if you've never done it, because sometimes when we do it by seed, you know, it's gonna be a little slower, it can be a little intimidating, but right here, you've already got a living plant that you can stick in the ground and you feel more set up for success. And so, the other thing is, a lot of times when you buy a seed pack, you might have 20 or 30 seeds in there. Well, if you don't have a big vegetable garden, you might not need 30 broccoli plants. You might only need 5 or 6, right? So this is a way that you can, plant the amount that you want to plant and be set up for success. And so your cauliflower, your broccoli, cabbage, both purple and white cabbage, kale, there's lots of different varieties of kale, spinach, arugula, these are all things that are gonna do awesome in the fall for you. A lot of your head type things like cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, those are gonna be later into October, maybe even November if the weather holds out. But if these plants are established in the ground and they're healthy, they can even go down below freezing temperatures. And that actually just makes the flavor even more robust and delicious in these vegetables here. Things like your leafy greens though, your spinach and arugula and lettuce, kale, those types of things, those you can be harvesting on earlier. I mean, I could harvest a piece of this kale today, right? And they're just gonna keep growing and producing more leaves. So let's say you don't have a huge garden plot that you can put these things in the ground. Well, you can also be successful in a container in the fall. This is a 12-inch pot. I wouldn't go any smaller than that. If anything, go bigger, right? But in a 12-inch pot, you're gonna be able to grow one broccoli plant, okay? Broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, those plants get really big. What I love to do in a container though is leafy greens, because you could put 5, 6 spinach plants in here. They're gonna fill this pot out. It'll be a nice green pot, and you could be harvesting on that all the way into the winter months, because again, spinach can take really cold temperatures. They can even freeze. So spinach, kale, lettuce, those are a great thing to do in a container in the fall, just to continue to produce some of your own food and enjoy that process. One important thing in a container though, is gonna be starting with a really good quality potting mix. Like our Family Tree potting mix is absolutely fantastic for growing stuff in so that your plants can really thrive in there. All right, so now my favorite part of the whole process is actually digging in the ground, getting the plants planted. So what we're gonna do is We're gonna dig that hole about 12 to 18 inches wide, about the same in depth. We're gonna try to make a nice big hole. We're gonna dump some compost into the hole, about half to 3/4 of the way up. We're gonna slowly start amending and mixing that soil, kind of like we're mixing up some cookie dough. We really wanna make that nice and amended so those roots can real easily root out and get established quickly, especially when we're planting in the middle of August, right? So we're gonna amend the soil really well. At the end of that, we're gonna come back, we're gonna fertilize these plants with water and fertilizer because we want to get them off to the best start right at the beginning. Then we're gonna mulch over the area, kind of insulate that soil, keep it from weeds from growing as easy. So come along, let's put one of these in the ground. So first thing here, I'm gonna go ahead and get some compost in there. Like I said, about half to 3/4 of the way up. I'm gonna take my shovel then, and I'm just gonna start turning this up. You can see that original soil that's in there. And this is already pretty good soil, but every time we plant, if we can be adding this compost in, it's gonna help make this plant happier. It's got nice loose soil to grow in. Okay, now I'm gonna dig a little hole right here in the middle. I'm gonna take this guy out. Now, one thing I like to do on a lot of these little starts is I'll pull off these lower leaves. They don't need those. And some plants like a cauliflower, I can actually plant a little bit deeper. Some things you really don't want to bury the stem, but on a cauliflower, we can actually bury a little bit of that stem. And what that'll do is it'll help keep that plant upright and supported and help it get rooted out faster. Now, I don't want to compress the soil real hard because when I go to water, that's not going to allow for the water to really soak in and percolate through that soil as well. So I'm going to gently pack it in. And then another thing I like to do is I'll come in here and I'll make like a little moat around my plant. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow for the water to stay right at that plant, okay? You can see that water is blue. We want to put fertilizer water on these from day one. We want to be giving this the nutrients that it's going to need to really root in and get established. And so you see how that moat kind of held all the water in there? Now as that slowly soaks down, I'll come back and I'll add a little bit more. This is about 1 gallon, and that's about the amount you want to give each plant. You really want to water them deep. The best part of watering is if you can water deep into the soil, the roots are going to grow down looking for moisture rather than staying surface level. That's going to establish a more heat, drought tolerant plant and ultimately make for a better harvest. Well, another way we can do it is we can just use an auger. You can also use a shovel, but augers make it go super quick. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna go ahead and auger that soil out. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper, right? So that way the soil is loosened up well below that plant. And then we're gonna do the same process, right? All right, so like you've heard, fall vegetable gardening can be really rewarding. The hardest part is getting out in the middle of August when it's really hot and planting these plants. But as the temperatures cool, it gets easier and easier and the plants get happier and healthier and more robust in their flavor. And so put a garden in this fall, give it a try. Just put a few things in, right? But if you got any questions, you need more clarification, feel free to comment down below. Feel free to come into one of the stores, or we'll also link the catalog down below. You can explore through that. That's going to answer a lot of questions for you. One other thing I'd love to know, comment down below. What's your favorite vegetable? What's your favorite thing to grow in the fall?